Vidhi, I
Yes,
see
hi.
you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you,
You're
Joe?
good. I'm well, thank you. And congratulations for writing a remarkable book. Vidhi, I
Thank
don't
you
think
so
many
much.
people would have been able to write what you have written with the kind of, it's a candid book and it's a deep dive as well into your emotional state. And as I say, I
Yeah.
think not very many people would have come out of it the way you've come out. Fantastic.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here on this chat.
So, quickly, just to regroup in a sense for everybody, uh, Vidhi was just 18 when, her life was put into this, as I said, a media circus, completely into the spotlight. Both her parents, Indrani Mukherjea and Peter Mukherjea, were sent to jail in connection around the Sheena Bora case. She was left to fend for herself in a way for years, which she's done remarkably well. And this book is a success story of that. Vidhi, I'm going to begin by asking you, I mean, the name of the book, The Devil's Daughter. How did you come
Yes.
about it?
So for me, I really love the title because actually, I was in the ocean, and just before I started writing this book, like I knew something was going to be out, and me and my partner, we were discussing it, and kind of the name Devil's Daughter came out of it, and I instantly really loved it because my first kind of connection did not go to any specific person. It feels more like a metaphor towards me, because that's literally how I felt I was looked at by the entire kind of world and this country, the people in it, the law, the media, the CBI, all of that. So I really thought it was so deep and beautiful that it has this like split meaning, it's a title that's only understood once you kind of read the whole book.
Do you want to show the book before we go ahead?
Sure.
It's a
This
remarkable
is
book,
it.
and yeah, it always comes like this. No, any which way you do it.
Yeah.
I've tried it many times,
Perfect.
many ways. Devil's Daughter by Vidhie Mukherjea. Please get
Thank
your
you.
copy. It's available, I'm presuming, on Amazon, Flipkart,
Amazon,
bookstores as
yes.
well.
On my yeah.
Nah, you can get it on her bio as well. So I'm going to go back to, the day you were turning 18 or the eve of turning 18. I mean, it's a big moment in any child's life, in any teen's life. It's
Sure.
that big milestone. And yet for you, it turned into, well, somewhat a horror story, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably the one of the worst days of my life, But now I've kind of started to see it as also the best day in a really weird sense because I really wouldn't be where I am today and the person who I am if none of this happened to me. I envision my life would have been extremely different if none of this happened. So in fact, I really don't regret any of it.
And do you want people to just read all of that in the book, or do you want to give them a snippet of really what unfolded on your 18th birthday?
So I mean, it is greatly detailed in my book, but
Yeah.
the gist of it is when I basically came home from school. Actually, I didn't. My driver wasn't there to kind of pick me up, so I took a cab back, and it was really bizarre because that's never happened before, and no one was answering their phones at all. So when I came back home, there was just a frenzy of like 20 to 30 cops everywhere, and I just thought this is like super bizarre and this is all a big mistake and what's going on. And my mom was sitting there and my dad was playing golf, so I kind of called him and told him to come home, and he did, and we still had no idea what the charges were that day. And so for the longest time I just thought this was a big misunderstanding. Even when I heard what my mom was being taken away for, it didn't really strike me because I just thought, I mean, we both did. I think everyone, my dad, my aunt, we all thought this is just a huge misunderstanding until much later. Then she didn't come home. So
So, at the beginning, you kind of dedicate the book to your mother, and you say you do not fully know or understand her. And so I can sense that pull and push throughout the book with you. You know, have you reached some sort of a peace when it comes to your relationship with Indrani?
Yes, I have, and I've been asked this question many times, and people kind of, wonder, like, have I forgiven her? Have I done this? And yeah, I have forgiven her because forgiveness, I truly believe it's very, it's almost close to like godliness. If you can forgive someone, you're basically unburdening yourself from your past. You're literally, it's a huge weight that's coming off your shoulder. I don't condone anything that happened, but I really needed to kind of, it was more for my own mental peace that I needed to forgive her, and I just needed to stick up for her. At the end of the day, she is my mother, and I truly believe everyone deserves a chance, because I know what it's like to not being given one, and I ought to be there for her. So like right now, it's a complicated relationship. I mean, it's not any mother and daughter relationship, but it is a mother and daughter relationship that has a lot of complexities through it. So we're kind of sifting through that and slowly beginning to make my peace with her.
So, you mentioned this in your book as well, that, you decided towards the end about forgiving her. But what is it that you've forgiven her for? There's
Wow,
just so
interesting
much,
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's just so much in
Uh,
there.
yeah, I think first I kind of had to just accept in my life that this was happening. Um, so I've currently only forgiven her for my aspect of my life. There's a lot of like my dad, a lot of other people that kind of tie into the word forgiveness, which I can't necessarily comment on because I don't understand it yet. I haven't even begun to kind of understand what that means for other people. But just in a way that, look, I guess this is what happened the last 5 years. Indirectly it happened because of you, and I am choosing to accept that this happened, so I will forgive you for it. It's about what happens the next kind of 5 years.
So again, there is another quote, from the book. Uh, I thought about how she went from being a young girl from Guwahati to heading her own business venture in Mumbai. She was ambitious and unfortunately not willing to let anything stand in the way of her career, in the way of her success. So you've also mentioned that Indrani was controlling, and that she hit you a few times, and you were young. I mean, you were very young, whatever you may have thought in your mind, and I sense that. Was all this, did her actions actually put a burden on you and your response?
I mean, yeah, of course, to some degree, I think it's bound to. Of course it did, and to be very honest, like I wasn't the best kid either. I was a terrible, like it was that stage of rebelliousness where it stemmed because at this point, me and my mom, we were just clashing on everything. If she said black, I would say it's white. So anything she did say, I would kind of do the opposite of, because that's who I was as a kid. I was a very like stubborn, I felt like I knew everything when I was young, and yeah, it was very kind of turbulent back then, and I'm sure it did kind of bear on me quite a bit.
So let's go back a bit to that. The fact that your mother was arrested. What were the emotions? Is that everything that you've written in the book exactly as you felt?
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, the only thing I probably didn't write is literally like how absent-minded absent-minded in a way. Okay, so when my mother got arrested, I was very I instantly like shut off the moment I heard the words why she's arrested and for what. I just shut every single part of me down, and now I can recall that very clearly. But back then, I was kind of very confused. I didn't cry for like 2 months. When this happened, I didn't cry for the first 2 months. Because I literally chose not to process any of it. I chose that I'm gonna just look the other way and pretend none of this is happening to me or my family, which is a huge reason why I got judged by many people for doing that. Um, so yeah, I was just escaping for like 2 years after that whole thing happened. It took me years to process that this is actually happening, and yeah, my feelings were. I'm not even joking. I think the first thing I did was literally order a pizza. And it's really weird, but I've been trying to understand that why I did that. Now as a thing, I'm just literally trying to understand why was I in that kind of phase and state right after the arrest. And I think it's a natural kind of response that I've realized that happens if a human being goes through something incredibly traumatic. There are two ways one can deal with it. One is just completely delve into the issue and be there and be, kind of trying to help every single moment, or escape. And I completely took the deflecting and escaping route.
No, everybody reacts differently, and you had a tough journey. But how did you decide to write the book, Vidhie? There is so much. I mean, it was like I said, it was a deep dive into very different aspects of you, your family. Were you worried that the acceptance may not be easy from family members?
Um, I don't think so. When I first started, because I got a lot of encouragement throughout the years that I should write something, and I always knew that I was going to write something. I just didn't know whether it was going to be for the world to see or whether it was only going to be for myself, because I soon started to realize just even writing down notes was quite cathartic for me. So I think it's when the pandemic hit, I just graduated from Barcelona and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing with my life. And I was not really in the best headspace during that point as well, like many other people weren't. And I think once I was also quite older, right? This was almost like 5 years after all of this had happened. So once I started writing, I didn't stop, and I still didn't know whether this was going to be a book. I didn't stop at all, and I finished the first manuscript in 2 months. And only after I kind of finished those many words did I realize, okay, I have to get this down, because even through writing the book, it was crazy. I was in a complete, like, my mind frame was just completely upside down. I was going through so many emotions. A part of why I really wanted to write this book and publish it is because I thought about what other people are probably feeling, anxiety, depression, these are all the same things. We all go through the same things. And yeah, issues are different, but we all need the same kind of healing.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to come back to that anxiety part in a bit, but you also, because we're talking about what the book meant to you and, it was a cathartic experience in a sense, you also wrote, I'm on my own unique journey, a process of self-inquiry. Did the book give you some sort of closure to those years?
Yeah, more than closure, I think it gave me relief. I don't think I have closure yet. Closure is like a very ongoing process. But it gave me a lot of relief, like literally, I think after my last word, I was able to just breathe differently. And I feel it. So, and it's just, I was able to kind of live my life unapologetically. I felt like I could just live properly now, because it was essentially the chapter was closed, ironically.
Yeah. Do you meet, so do you do weekly visits with Indrani, or what is the relationship like right now?
No, so so I do talk to her every week. Maybe I think like twice or thrice a week we get a phone call, and we kind of catch up a lot on different aspects. I've started to kind of share a lot of my life lessons and philosophies with her, and just who I am as a person, because I kind of, conveyed to her that it's a really important thing for me that you get to know who I am today and not the 18-year-old version of me that you knew. And I kind of try to understand her as much as I can as well.
So, your relationship with your father, incredibly close. I think one of the most poignant portions of the book for me was when he got arrested. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what was going through your mind? I know you were shattered, completely out of your depth. It's not something you expected.
No, not at all. I mean, like, that's why it was so terrible, because, like, I don't think anyone expected it, and it was on his birthday, and he was, so I just moved to London, and he was gonna come, he was basically gonna help with the investigation and come to me in London to kind of settle me into university and all that weeks after, and he kept saying, yeah, only a couple more days. And I think right after his birthday, he was gonna come. So in my head, I was just like, yeah, okay, I was preparing mentally for him to be there. I was making a list of all the places I wanted to take him, all the things I wanted to do with him. So yeah, I mean, the day I heard it, I don't know when I've actually blocked that part of my mind out because it's like it was so scarring. So I just I don't even really remember much of what happened because I just shut off completely, and that was like really hard hitting.
And is your relationship with your father still as close as it was, given that your parents are separated, are divorced now, and
Closer.
things?
I mean,
And you,
like we are. Yeah, we are. It's unfortunate because we can't really speak right now, but
yeah, of course.
we're closer than ever. Like we are. It's beautiful. It's every year since this happened. Like even when I'd visit him in ARJ and everything, we get we got closer every meeting because those 20 minutes almost kind of it filled that hole in our hearts. Like it's yeah, we're closer than ever.
That's good to know. So, between the courts, those rounds, the nervousness, the tension, seeing your parents, meeting them in jail or meeting them in court, and the crazy media spotlight on you, what is the one thing that really tore you down? It's
I
a
think
hard
the
one to
media
choose
had a
from, I
huge
think.
part to play in it. Sorry?
I think it's a hard one. I mean,
Hello?
everything was a battle. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. I just think you cracked up for a little bit, but now I can hear
No,
you.
carry on, carry on.
Um, yeah, it's a tough question because also I've never really thought about it in detail, but I think definitely the media had a huge part to play in because I wasn't really expecting it. It just came out of the blue where like our life was like a soap opera. Like it was just portrayed for entertainment. There was no base and everyone was just attacking us for kind of on a very like it was invasive. It was really invasive. So I would say the media was definitely one, and just I don't know, like I think also my ability in my own self. I was probably quite hard on myself at the start. I thought that I was completely okay and I don't need anyone and I was doing fine. And then I got into this really kind of self-deprecating phase where I just kept telling myself for a whole year that, I can't do anything. I'm just all of this. And then, yeah, so I think just realizing how hard I was on myself,
Of
that's a
course.
big one.
And I think you because you didn't process it for a long while, it erupted that day. And it was very poignant for me when I was reading that, it's Christmas Eve, you're walking, you're volunteering with homeless shelter. And it was actually like a movie, as you
Yeah.
say, you're on the outside, looking in, happy families, looking forward to the festival, and there you're all alone by yourself. And then you took, you went and you had a lot of alcohol and you tried to overdose.
Yeah, I mean, those were two different parts I think you're
Okay,
talking
was
about.
it?
But
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, but same kind of instance, but a year apart. But
So what?
yeah, the first instance, I mean, because like again, I was in London and I didn't really want to come back to India just because I wasn't really. I knew I would have kind of blown up if I came back to India, and like mentally, I would have just not been able to handle it. So there I just thought kind of helping the whole, and it was really wholesome, like helping the homeless. Like it was something that I never thought I'd do in my life at that point. But it changed it kind of changed a little bit of me, and I just felt like really wholesome but really sad after as well.
Mm,
So that was a
mm.
really tough point. And then, as you said, the whole episode that happened in India as well, that was kind of really mentally draining. But again, that it had to happen for a reason, and I'm so glad it did because it literally it. I woke up the next day wanting to do better, and it just kept getting better every single day after that. So I don't regret anything that has happened.
So, with the mental health is so huge in our country, and especially amongst the young, in your kind of an age group, especially, which is why I want to ask you, what is the learning out of that episode? I mean, you went into the kitchen once and took out the sharpest knife that you could find, and but you resisted, and then you overdosed, and you were frothing in the mouth, and then you've come out stronger after all that. But people don't have to go through that process to come out stronger. What is it that you would tell them?
See, I think the overall answer that people would give, and like that is advised, is just try and talk to someone. But it's not easy. Like, it's not easy to just talk to anyone like that. So a lot of people told me that I should talk to people. Even I myself knew, I was completely aware that I need to start talking to people. But it's really hard to just kind of talk, about when you're going through that space. So as tough as this sounds, just delve into your head, like think why exactly, be so present in that moment of why you're going through that, and try and work it out with yourself. Does that make sense? Like, I know it's probably a very like strange advice to give, but talking to people didn't help me at the start. It's literally like I had to hit rock bottom for myself to kind of realize, and it was me who kind of took myself up. Of course there were friends and family that stood by me, and I really wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for them. But I've learned, like, I have to give majority of the credit to myself, because I'm the one who took myself out of that hole. So just try and keep understanding your mind as much as you can. If you're having negative thoughts, have them, and then like figure out why you're having them. Literally keep questioning yourself. That's literally what worked for me. And another big thing that worked for me is shadow work. I probably wouldn't advise doing shadow work if you're already in a very like mentally bad place, because it can probably, you're already quite weak. But basically what shadow work is, it's a self psychotherapy, and you're essentially questioning the deepest and darkest parts of yourself. So you're addressing topics like your insecurities, your family, your friends, jealousy, all of these, your shame topics essentially. And it's super intense, but it teaches you is like how to be okay with yourself. It teaches you how to be okay with your darker side. So that is something that really, really, really helped me.
So are you okay now with, with yourself, in the sense there was a time when you were having these insane panic attacks every week? Has that lessened? Have you kind of, figured out your space?
Oh yeah, look, it's always a process, right? I can't just say that I'm okay, because no one's just okay like that. And there's a long journey for me to still, like, I will never be fully okay. I don't think any human can just be fully okay forever. But what I can say is I'm way better than, a couple of years ago. I really know how to control my feelings, and I love life. I like, I wanna be smiling as much as I can, and I'm now this like eternal optimist, which I've picked up from my father.
It's beautiful. So, Vidhie, I'm just going to go back again to the book. And there was there was an underlying part that I felt coming from the book was about Sheena. The fact that she was an outside character in a sense. And yet, I think everybody underscored the fact that she was really your sister. And there is not much spoken about your relationship. I know you said you were very close, you were thick, peas in a pod kind of a thing. But even outside or even in the media, nobody kind of took that and to figure out how a sister lost, you lost a sister.
Yeah, so again, that's what is unfortunate, is like the media didn't focus on the right details. They completely focused on the wrong and whatever could get them a scandalous headline. That's how it was back then. Like, people were interested in, like, there was literally a front page article on what I ate for breakfast. So that's the kind of, it's unfortunate, but people didn't as you said, people didn't really focus on the touching and emotional things. And also back then I was really young, like when Sheena came into my life. All I remember is that we were incredibly close, and we were like sisters. But I was like 10, 11, and back then.
Yeah, yeah. But tell me, what was it? What is the experience in attending court? You know, when your mother is out there, uh, and is an accused, and you have all this media checking out every little thing you're doing, and you're anyway nervous as to what is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, see, whilst I was there, I was kind of shutting it out. I have this great ability to just shut things out for some reason. Sometimes I can't control it. Sometimes it just happens subconsciously. It just literally, when I'm uncomfortable in a situation, I kind of put a big bubble around me, and no one can kind of infiltrate that, you know. So that's what I did when I went to these places like court or jail. But then when I came back after, when I was home alone with my thoughts, then it was bad. Yeah, it was a couple of times it was just like, I can't believe this is my life, you know. I can't believe like this is what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, is like driving from home where my parents used to live. Like, I would be waking up in the morning, having breakfast with them, and now I have to go and see them in court, you know. And yeah, I think but then I slowly started to accept that, and it got easier, you know, once you start living with your situation and learning like this is what it is, and you have to make peace with it, because if you don't, it's just going to eat you alive completely.
So I think it's been a wonderful journey that you have put out in your book. I think, as someone said, it is a daring book to write. I mean, it's a remarkable book to write. Not very many people would have been in your position and been able to come out, and having written it a very fair way. You know, you haven't. Let's just say you haven't put anybody down. You haven't, you haven't taken it out very personally. It's the journey of an 18-year-old, and I think society also expects a bit much from an 18-year-old. I think, which is where you possibly got stuck as to expectations, delivery, how should you behave. And I think it was okay as an 18-year-old. I mean, you behaved the best you could. Fantastic. My last question to you on that, Vidhi, is really what has been your big realization of the last 5 years?
So coming back to something I previously said, one big kind of realization that I've had is you just keep focusing on this journey that you're having with yourself. Like, keep trying to understand yourself more and more and more, because we as human beings, we're so complex, right? And we have limitless possibilities. Like, you can teach yourself anything. Like, the best asset a human being can possess is to know themselves fully. That's what I truly believe. And it's really worked in my favor, because through that I kind of understood what empathy is. You know, empathy is, again, one of the biggest lessons for me. It really put everything into perspective, you know, kind of embodying my own, you know, weirdness, because I think everyone has a little bit of weird in them, and they're so kind of ashamed of it. And I think we ought to, you know, believe that weird is beautiful. So yeah, just keep trying to like work with yourself and be friends with your darker self.
And what are you working on now? What is next for Vidhi?
So right now I'm actually currently in the process of working on my second book about sustainable travel, because there's a lot of stuff that I really didn't get to mention in the first one, which is just about my traveling journey, right? And how that has really transformed my way of living and me as a person, backpacking and just, you know, living uncomfortably in certain ways, like living on the edge, and
You did.
just kind of understanding different cultures and people, traveling on a budget. So all of these things I'd really like to talk about. And I love like painting and cooking, so I'm just free flowing it, right? I'm writing, I'm doing a bit of cooking, I'm doing a bit of drawing, and seeing where it leads me, you know.
I think it's wonderful. I'm sure it's going to lead you to
Thank
more
you
and more
so
success,
much.
as it has with this book, Vidhie Mukherjea. I wish you the very best. I hope that the tide has turned for you, and things are looking up, and things are more peaceful, more than looking up, you know, within you and around you. And wishing you all the very best and more success for Devil's Daughter, Don't forget, guys, it's out. Do read her book. It's a remarkable journey of an 18-year-old. And well, we'll catch up when the next book comes as well.
100%. Thank you so much. It was a really lovely
Done.
chat.
Thank you for being here. All the best, Vidhie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.